Hello there.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Star Wars News, and this is the Bad Batch Episode 10 breakdown. Also, stick around to the end of the video to get my thoughts and predictions on the episode.
Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
Episode 10 is called Common Ground, and this shows that after the Clone Wars, a war that neither side has won except for the Sith, both sides find themselves under Imperial rule, and while we see the Republic worlds accept the Empire more graciously, former Separatists and Outer Rim worlds see the Empire as a totalitarian ruler, subjugating citizens to accept the new order right away, no questions asked. Now Raxus would become the Separatists' new headquarters after their first headquarters of Geonosis was lost in the beginning of the Clone Wars. And we actually first see the planet from an episode of the Clone Wars called Heroes on Both Sides. We open on the planet Raxus, where Captain Bragg makes a speech to the people asking for their loyalty. We find out that the senators of Raxus have no power, and that all the senators that have opposed the Empire were jailed or put to death, similar to Ezra Bridger's parents for speaking out against the Empire openly. Now during the speech, Avi Singh is expected to give his support to the Empire so that the people will follow him, but speaks out openly and is jailed. And during this time we are introduced to GS-8, who is a similar droid to AP-5, whose model was an RA-7 protocol droid. Back on Ord Mantell, the Bad Batch are given another mission from Sid.
Former center of the Separatist government. It has since become an Imperial outpost.
I'm not interested in a history lesson, Goggles.
But Omega has to stay behind because of the bounties on her head. Now Sid volunteers to watch Omega so that the Bad Batch can do their mission and make money. And also Sid gives Hunter a new nickname. And just as a side note, there was some speculation that Sid is a nod to Final Fantasy series. Well, there are a couple quiet scenes in the cantina, and you can actually hear Sid's Final Fantasy VII theme playing in the background. And when Hunter goes to say Sid's name, the music actually gets louder.
Yeah, bandana. Just get out of here, will you?
Now on their way to Raxus, the Bad Batch discuss the mission. And while the war is over, there is discussed towards the Separatist worlds. When on approach to Raxus, the Bad Batch are hailed by clone pilots, which is a similar scene to the Millennium Falcon approaching Bespin in The Empire Strikes Back.
No, I don't have a landing permit.
After landing, the team meets their new client and is shocked that they're hired by a droid, and begin to give GS-8 the 3PO treatment right away.
Sir, might I
Shut him up or shut him down.
Back on Ord Mantell, Sid tries to cheer up Omega, who is bummed that she's left behind on the mission. And I get the feeling that during Sid's pep talk, that we are getting some foreshadowing of who Omega will be later on. Back on Raxus, we have AT-TEs patrolling the city, and these have not been seen since the end of the Clone Wars for us. And as we see throughout this episode, these larger walkers have difficulty navigating the city, and this would eventually lead to the development of the AT-ST. We see Echo confront his droid ally, building more on the distrust of droids after the Clone Wars. And this is a theme that continues throughout Star Wars. The Bad Batch sneak through the corridors of Avi Singh's residence, and during this episode we see the Bad Batch trying to use non-lethal ways to take down the clone troopers. And this could be after the events of Bracca, they realize that their former allies are programmed much like droids and no longer have free will. And back at Ord Mantell, the usuals are playing Sid in the game of Dejarik, and Omega helps Sid win the game, showing that perhaps her main contribution to the Bad Batch will be as a strategist. Back on Raxus, Captain Bragg interrogates Avi Singh, and during their talk it looks like that she pours herself some Alderaanian red wine, which would become a rare commodity in 19 years. And similar to A New Hope, when Princess Leia is about to get interrogated, we see an IT-0 interrogation droid appear from the shadows. But prior to Avi Singh getting the mind probe, the Bad Batch rush in and save him. The Bad Batch commandeer an AT-TE just to have it damaged shortly after. And while Tech and Echo conduct repairs, Hunter and Wrecker take on the rest of the clone army. They then escape through underground tunnels and make it back to the ship. And as a nice touch, Senator Avi Singh wants to stay and fight. Ultimately, it's Echo that convinces him that he'll do more good if he leaves. Back at Sid's, Omega has continued to beat the citizens of Ord Mantell at Dejarik, and actually makes enough money to pay off the Bad Batch's debt. So while this episode was another side quest type episode, we did get to see some important world building. We get to see the way that former Separatist worlds are treated under the Empire, being far more subjugated unlike former Republic worlds, and more so than the Outer Rim worlds that were under neither faction's control. We also get to see that Omega is a master strategist, and I'm curious to see what role this will play in the future. And this could be another indication of her being force sensitive, with the ability to see events happen before they do, similar to how Anakin could when he was a child. Now with the possibility of there only being 4 more episodes of Season 1, I think this will be our last going on a mission episode. and I think we're going to see some big events start happening. And with a hint from the series composer early on, it sounds like we have some dark times ahead of us. Now, if you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want some more great Star Wars content from a lifelong Star Wars fan, make sure you subscribe to the channel. May the Force be with you.